Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice. My name is Janet Knudsen, and I'm your worship associate this morning. And now a few words from A Holy Alchemy by Kim Mason. Once upon a time, chemists believed they could transform lead into gold or death into life. We laugh, But are we not also in the business of alchemy? Turning loneliness into connection, pain into comfort, anger into solidarity, faith into action. The subtle magic of church combines love with justice, creates hope out of fear, transforms individuals into community. Please join this community for refreshments and conversation on the lanai after the service. And while you're there, find out more about our congregation. We're glad that you've chosen to be here with us today. Is there anyone visiting with us for the first time that might want to stand up and tell us your name and where you're visiting from? Jean is going to bring you a mic. Jean, we've got someone.
Would you like to?
Huh?
Oh, we actually do.
Hi, my name is Susan McConnell. I came here with Jean Barlow. And what is the restaurant today?
Where you're visiting from?
I live in Island Walk in Venice, same as Jean does.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you here.
Okay.
Welcome.
My name's Michelle McMahon. I'm Eddie Keffel's sister. I'm visiting from San Francisco. Thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Paul Carlucci.
Hi,
I'm
Paul.
here with my girlfriend, Donna, and my other girlfriend, Donna.
I'm the former Dan Hadley. And I say that because I'm a refugee from Black Mountain, North Carolina. No running water, no electricity, no internet, no cable. Flush your toilets with water from a stream. Diane DeGrasse and I rushed on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I drove 10 hours. I'm too old for that. I drove above 80 miles an hour. The reason we are here, apart from the fact that we were former members, is that I'm a little nervous, on the day, I guess it was Friday, I got a message, I could still get messages, from Linda Underwood and Bill saying, come on down, take our house. They are members of this congregation, and they represent the best of this congregation. And I've got Linda on my phone, but I'll...
Yeah, she might be watching.
You can't hear me. Speaker. Linda.
Yeah.
Guess where I am?
Where are you?
Yukon.
Everybody say hi.
So fun. I'm glad.
Yeah, I remember the first time I came in here,
Yeah.
and I knew I was home.
Thank you, Dan. That's how I felt.
Welcome back, Dan. We're so glad to have you back with us, and Diane, too.
I'm going to hang up now.
I'm not a new member, but I do have my daughter, Elizabeth, who some of you may remember from being the survivor of 9/11 at the Pentagon attack, and my daughter-in-law. They happen to be roommates from college. And it's been great to have family here today.
Anybody else? Any snowbirds that have recently come back? Oh,
Yay.
well, you might have timed that wrong. Not me. All right, we've got a couple of announcements here. First, Cindy Bauman's Death, Grief, and Transition Support Group, which is scheduled for this Wednesday, is canceled. The next meeting will be Wednesday, October 23rd at 1:30 in Waters Hall. Secondly, Jean Barlow has put a I voted chart up on the lanai. So if, like me, you've already submitted your vote by mail ballot, you can just pick up an I voted sticker right out there on the table and put it on the chart, and we'll see how filled up we can make that chart.
Each person has their initials, so there's a book that tells you where you...
Oh, okay. So there are instructions there alongside it. Does anyone have any other announcements? Yes, Donna.
I want to say Meatless Monday is canceled for tomorrow because of the situation, all right?
Good idea. No Meatless Monday tomorrow. Guess Jack.
The writers group that would normally meet this Monday is also canceled.
Okay, no writers group this Monday. Yep.
Steve's not in here, but obviously the cleanup, Kim's cleanup on Wednesday.
Yes, ironically, there'll be no cleanup on Wednesday. There may be lots of cleanup after Wednesday. All right, we are now entering into a sacred space, so please silence your cell phones. The words for our chalice lighting are from Beacon of Freedom by Tracy Johnson. A bonfire sends sparks flying upwards against a pitch-black background. We kindle our chalice flame this morning, awakening the fire of our ancestors in our hearts. Beacon of freedom, held out to light the way. Light of reason, illuminating the path. Spark of courage, igniting our spirits. Aglow with hope for all we endeavor to do together. Holy flame of times past, brighten this present moment, that we may be the love that is our center and our foundation both. Blessed be. Lisa will now play the prelude.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is so good to be with you here today, because today we're exploring a challenging subject, the document called Project 2025 and its theological positions. Created by the ultra-far-right Heritage Foundation, it's over 900 pages long. It may surprise you to know we are not going to cover the whole thing here today. I advise reading it in your own time. You can get it free online. You can buy a copy. Educate yourself. Read the book. So why are we looking at this? We're looking at it because the ideas held in the document are almost completely incompatible with denominational Unitarian Universalism. Andrew Watkins says, it's a Christo-fascist manifesto, designing a theocracy. And it is very much in play this election year. This is not the Republican Party. I want to be very clear on this. Republicans and Democrats and independents who are not ultra-conservative Christian nationalists are all very uncomfortable with this document. This is not a partisan issue. This is a theology issue. So as we come here today to do this heavier lifting, I want to ground us with words from Reverend Sherry Woodbury. Again, we reground ourselves here in our highest values. Love is the center and the foundation of this faith. Love is the power that holds us together as a community. As we enter into worship, then, let us open our hearts to the healing power of liberating love. Because love is not only something we receive, but something that we practice in community. Let fall away all that might distract us from the wholehearted practice of love. Let us be accountable to one another for doing the work of our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. And as we continue to listen and learn, to act and grow, may each unfold in wholeness, both deeply loving and truly loved. So come and let us worship here together. UCOV is a welcoming, caring community which is open to anyone who respectfully enters. We encourage spiritual growth, seek meaning, and pursue justice together. So please join me now in reading the words of our covenant, the promise of how we will be with one another. In a climate of joy, goodwill, and trust, this congregation covenants to treat one another with kindness and respect, to listen with openness and acceptance, to support and protect the environment of which we are all a part, to solve problems responsibly as we grow and change, to encourage learning and nurture the growth of diverse human spirits, and to dedicate time, talent, and resources in an effort to make a difference in local and world communities. In the spirit of our free religious heritage, we promise these to one another. Please rise in body or spirit now as you're willing, and join in singing our opening hymn, number 360, Here We Have Gathered.
Step inside, may all see.
Our offering words are offered today with levity because giving should never hurt. A Unitarian Universalist in Florida went to the doctor, who told him, "Oh, I am so sorry, you have a terrible illness and only a year to live." So he decided to talk to his pastor. After the man explained the situation, he asked his pastor if there was anything he could do. And the pastor thought a minute and said, "What you should do is go out and buy a late 70s or early 80s model Dodge pickup with a failing transmission." He thought a minute longer. He said, "And then I want you to go get married to the meanest, most foul-smelling person you can find and buy yourself a tiny old house trailer with no insurance in the panhandle of Oklahoma." "Okay," said the guy dubiously, trying frantically to take notes. Then the pastor said, "I want you to volunteer to lead the stewardship campaign at the local UU church." "Wow," the fellow said, "will this all help me to live longer?" "Well," said the pastor, "no, but it will make you pray for death, and it'll make whatever time you have left seem like absolutely forever." With great apologies for my jokes, the morning offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you so much for these gifts and for everything you do for the life and the work of this community. It's as a community of human hands and human hearts that we come together here to bear witness and minister one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and celebrate life's joys. This is our time of sharing. If you have a joy or a concern, you can raise a hand and someone will bring you a microphone. Please share only those stories that are yours to tell. So if you have anything, please raise a hand.
Is it on? Okay. I just received notification a few minutes ago of the sad news of Gil Brinkerhoff's death. He was a beloved member of UCOB for many, many years. He had been in home hospice for the past week. So let's think of wonderful things and memories of Gil.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Donna Jewett. I've just returned from 2 months in lovely New England. I escaped Debbie and I escaped the other hurricane, and now I'm really concerned about Milton because I said I still have PTSD from being alone with Ian. So I'm reaching out to people and just say, I know I'm not alone, thank you. But it's a concern for me. But I just have to say I had a wonderful celebration with all my stepchildren. They showed up for me, and we had a wonderful 80th birthday, and they were just there for me, and I was like, oh my God, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Carlucci. I'm new here, and I have a joy to share. A number of months ago, I met this lovely lady who now owns my heart. And thank you all.
Hello, I'm Judith Parker. I just want to say I have a friend that got flooded out at St. Petersburg. We went up to help her. It was unbelievable. Everywhere, to the sky practically, there were piles of everyone's belongings. Only thing she had left was anything that was above counter high. So we packed up dishes and stuff for her to try to, so she was heading with a U-Haul back to Michigan, where she had sold her house and basically is going to have to stay with her mother till she figures it out. But it was awful. It was, so we should support any kind of donations for people that are just, it was astounding.
I have one. I do the bulletin here for UCOV, and when I came in yesterday to print them and cut them for you today, I came in and realized that it was Monk San doing the meditation. I had never been there, and it was amazing. I dropped in very quietly to the back. It was amazing, 10:30 on Saturday mornings. It was terrific. I have another joy that my dear friend Susan came today. I'm so happy. And the last thing I wanted to say quickly is that I'm supposed to be driving up to Orlando tomorrow for a medical procedure on Tuesday. So be thinking about me, sending good vibes. I'm going to call in the morning and see if everything's copacetic up there. My thought overnight was, what if the physician can't get there? But anyway, thank you for everything. Thank you.
May the love of this community hold all who need love and care. May the light of the community shine on the broken places of the world. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted, and those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant.
Our first reading is from Want to Fight Christian Nationalism? Begin by Arming Yourself with the Facts by Rob Boston. And that was for the Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and written in January 2022, near the anniversary of the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The anniversary of the Capitol insurrection ought to be a time of soul-searching and reflection for Christian nationalists. It won't be, because leaders and followers of this movement are simply incapable of facing up to the uncomfortable truth that they employed violence in an effort to overturn the results of a democratic election. But that doesn't mean the rest of us have to live in ignorance. Indeed, the first step to opposing Christian nationalism is to understand what we're up against. In a New York Times essay, writer-researcher Catherine Stewart begins with a blunt assessment. The most serious attempt to overthrow the American constitutional system since the Civil War would not have been feasible without the influence of America's Christian nationalist movement. 1 year later, the movement seems to have learned a lesson. If it tries harder next time, it may well succeed in making the promise of American democracy a relic of the past. Stewart explains that the coup attempt wouldn't have been possible without the unshakable sense of persecution that movement leaders have cultivated among the same base of voters. For a stunning visual reminder of the role Christian nationalism played on January 6, 2021, visit Uncivil Religion, a collaborative digital effort by the Department of Religious Studies at the University of Alabama and the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. At the site, you can read interpretive essays by scholars and visit media galleries that, as the site notes, represent the variety of ways people deployed religion on January 6th. Our meditative reading this morning is by Langston Hughes. from Let America Be America Again. Oh, let America be America again, the land that that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh, yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. With these words in mind, please join me in 1 minute of silent thought, meditation, or prayer. Our second reading is from Christian Nationalism is the Single Biggest Threat to America's Religious Freedom, an interview with Amanda Tyler of the Baptist Joint Committee. I think the divides in American society over the COVID-19 pandemic illustrate a long-running debate over the nature of freedom, including religious freedom. There are some who subscribe to a more individual rights notion of freedom, that any infringement on a personal liberty is an attack on freedom and must be opposed. That notion of freedom, however, does not work in a large society, particularly one as pluralistic as the United States. The better path, I believe, is an understanding of freedom that takes into account the rights of everyone in our pluralistic democracy. In the introduction to her book of cultural criticism titled On Freedom, author Maggie Nelson writes that she takes it as a given that our entire existence, including our freedoms and unfreedoms, is built upon a we instead of an I. This we version of freedom understands the need to protect individual rights as much as we can, while recognizing a limit when protecting one's personal freedom starts to infringe on another's. Absolutist language, when it comes to freedom, might be elegantly simple, but it is not effective at ensuring a free society. I think this has played out in areas of the country that opposed public health measures in the short run, only to see the pandemic persist in ways that have continued to limit freedom and tragically taken a huge toll in the form of loss of human life and health. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land.
You know, I don't know about you all, but when I was a kid, Every family had members who were Democrats, and every family had some members that were Republicans. And the most exciting thing that ever happened was that, Uncle George would yell at Uncle Rick at Christmas, and then they wouldn't have a beer together for a week or two. Your mom might go vote to cancel out your dad. You might argue cheerfully with your cousins about whether the president was an idiot. But they were differences not of a magnitude so large that you couldn't see the other person's point of view. Maybe the Republican was a little more conservative fiscally and socially, and the Democrat was a little more relaxed, but you could have dinner together. And for a lot of people, that is still very much true. When we are talking about Project 2025, we are not talking about America's Republican Democratic parties as we know them. In fact, we're not talking about political parties at all. In 2022, the Heritage Foundation, which is and I cannot stress how big this is, a very conservative think tank, along with about 140 former Trump staff members, put together a 900-page document called Project 2025. If you have not read this, I cannot encourage you enough not to buy a copy, but to go to their website and download the free copy. Democracy Docket explains that though the Heritage Foundation organized Project 2025, the initiative is actually a coalition made up of more than 100 right-wing groups, including more notorious groups like America First Legal, the Public Interest Legal Foundation, and Moms for Liberty. So according to Project 2025, our goal is to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. Project 2025 includes a 180-day playbook, which has a concrete plan for transitioning each federal agency over 180 days. This is not theoretical. These are working plans, very well thought out and researched. This is a manual for reorganizing the entire federal government, agency by agency, to serve a conservative agenda. According to the ACLU, Project 2025 includes a long list of extreme policy recommendations, touching on nearly every aspect of American life, from immigration and abortion rights to free speech and racial justice. A number of its recommendations rely on support from the executive branch and from Congress. Many other initiatives are outright unconstitutional, the ACLU says. This is not simply about the divide between federal rights and states' rights and small government. This is not that. This is not a partisan position paper outlining the Republican position. It is not that. This is not any Republican Party that any of us are familiar with. This project should concern you deeply, no matter your political party, because its ideas stand in profound theological opposition to the love and hope that we offer the world as Unitarian Universalist. Project 2025 is founded in Christian nationalism. And we throw that word around in our country. But Christian nationalism is fairly easy to define. It rests on a series of core beliefs, some of which you may know, some of which you don't. Belief one, America was founded as a white Christian nation. Belief two, the American founders were all Christians. who based our Constitution on the Christian Bible and on the requirement that you believe in the Christian Bible. Belief 3, the Bible as we read it today in English is the unerring, infallible Word of God. Belief 3, the Bible is therefore God's perfect law and the only basis for the definition of morality. Belief 5, if the laws of any country conflict with God's perfect law, as they interpret it, it is the job of a Christian nationalist to overrule, override, or remove the human law and replace it with God's perfect law or biblical law. Belief number 6, the races are inherently unequal. Some may believe that God cursed black and brown people in the Bible. And belief number 7, they believe that there can be no compromise with the world and God's perfect law. God's perfect law, as they interpret it, must be followed to the letter. So hearing those 7 beliefs that are what Christian nationalism rests on, now we can talk about a part of Project 2025. Project 2025 rests on something called the 4 promises. These are 4 promises that they make to the American citizens. Put very simply, the first promise is to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and to protect our children. Promise 2, to dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Promise 3, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. And Promise 4, secure our God-given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. Now, we do not have time in a single 1-hour service to go through all of the hows of Project 2025. It is 900 pages long with amazingly detailed instructions on how they intend to restructure each agency of the federal government, and you can read it. I am more concerned about why, where this all comes from. What are these promises that it rests on? Writer Andrew Watkins from Leveraging Our Differences says, as we unpack their 4 promises, you must keep their definition of morality in mind. The Bible is God's perfect law. Anything that violates God's perfect law is immoral and must be destroyed. So when we look at the fullness of that first promise, it reads, in part, the next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well-being of the American family. In so many ways, the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. So they're saying the main point of a federal government, rather than strong states, is to take away, to replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. The use of the words natural and unnatural is very deliberate. It is drawn from the Bible, from the book of Romans. The sections that it is used in are often used to talk about homosexuality and for this ultra-right wing to condemn homosexuality. The Christian nationalist definition of family is black and white. One man married to one unrelated woman and their children hopefully conceived without any use of birth control. Anything else is considered unnatural and therefore immoral. And Project 2025 honors this definition of the family throughout. So while most of us in this room would say, of course I want my family protected. They're not talking about your family in some of our cases. This promise is at odds with our principles. When I sing, "Come, come, whoever you are," there is no line there that says, "except for you," or "you," or "you." We believe in justice and dignity, equity and compassion, acceptance of one another. We keep calling for a world where all people and their families, whatever they look like, are welcome and treated equitably. So when the first promise Project 2025 makes is that we are going to create a country designed and intended only for a certain type of family, we say no way. This promise is at odds with our principles. In the second promise, the authors make one thing clear. They must dismantle the administrative state to force every American to live by their interpretation. They own this stance in Promise 2. They write, "The next conservative president must possess the courage to relentlessly put the interest of the everyday American over the desires of the ruling elite. Their outrage cannot be prevented, it must simply be ignored." How do they define the ruling elite? Well, we'll get to that in just a minute, but you're all it. Watkins writes, "They do not acknowledge any law that conflicts with their interpretation of the Bible. They don't care about an issue's popularity with voters. They don't pay attention to polls. Their goal is to install loyalists who will carry out Christian nationalist directives and ignore the will of the American people. Their promise is at odds with our principles. We believe in the use of democratic process and the right of conscience. We believe in the worth and dignity of people who deserve more than that their outrage simply be ignored. This promise is at odds with our principles. The third promise is about their idea of the defense of our nation, and it is a nightmare of xenophobia and anti-intellectualism. The full text reads in part, "Intellectual sophistication, advanced degrees, financial success, and all other markers of elite status have no bearing on a person's knowledge of the one thing most necessary for governance, what it means to live well. That knowledge is available to each of us no matter how humble our backgrounds or how unpretentious our attainments. It is open to us to read in the book of human nature, to which we are all offered the key just by merit of our shared humanity. One of the great premises of American political life is that everyone who can read in that book must have a voice in deciding the course and fate of our republic. The book of human nature is the Bible. Christian nationalists believe that every lesson possible, every bit of wisdom possible is contained there. This promise is at odds with our principles. We call for justice and equity and compassion for all people, for recognition of each individual's inherent dignity and worth. We center love and acceptance. We call for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We do not insist that all of the answers are in one book. There is no justice, no liberty, no democracy in a society that claims that one book and one book alone teaches them to live well, and that all other knowledge has no bearing on governance. This promise is at odds with our principles. The fourth promise reads, "When the founders spoke about the pursuit of happiness, what they meant might be understood today in essence as pursuit of blessedness. That is, an individual must be free to live as his Creator ordained, to flourish. Our Constitution grants each of us the liberty to do not what we want, but what we ought. This pursuit of the good life is found primarily in family, marriage, children, Thanksgiving dinners, and the like. Many find happiness through their work. Religious devotion and spirituality are the greatest sources of happiness around the world. Still others find themselves happiest at their local voluntary communities of friends, their neighbors, their civic or charitable work. The American Republic was founded on principles prioritizing and maximizing individuals' rights to live their best life or to enjoy what the framers called the blessings of liberty. This is coded language, and it's barely coded. Living the good life in Christian nationalist terms is living a godly Christian life as they define it. Living based on the Bible and its most conservative interpretations, and they tell you that there. That isn't even coded, that is spelled out. When they say living a good life and the blessings of liberty, they are not talking about being free for a responsible search for truth and meaning. This idea is again based on the book of Romans in the Bible, not to do what we want to, but to do what we ought. And it's right here spelled out cleanly in this fourth promise. It's based on the concept that all humans are born broken, steeped in sin, and so that our base urges call us to bad behavior. Well, I'll tell you what, their promise is at odds with our principles. We call one another to acceptance of one another and to encourage spiritual growth. We ask one another to engage in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And we do not tell one another that we are born broken. You are born imperfectly perfect. You are born whole and beautiful, not fractured and somehow needing salvation. You are already saved. You save yourselves and each other every minute that you breathe. You don't need some minister or some God to tell you that you are somehow not good enough. You are entitled to live your best life in any responsible way you see fit. And if you want to be free of the writings found in a 2,000-year-old book, you are entitled to that too. Their promise is at odds with our principles. Our free faith calls us with the goal of peace and liberty and justice for all, and we will not be misled by an ideology which says that our country must become a Christian nation state. Their promises don't work with our principles. Their promises are at odds with our principles. And we cannot lie down. We cannot roll over. We cannot fall away. We cannot shut up. We're going to rise up. We're going to stand up. We're going to speak out. We're going to vote. And we will fight until hell freezes over, and then we will pull out a flaming chalice and melt the ice. And we're going to keep right on going, because their promises are at odds with our principles. Amen. As we extinguish the flame on our chalice, we ignite it inside ourselves. Our commitment to our mission and to one another is an unquenchable flame, and let us remember that we are not alone until we light this flame the next time. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn this week, number 118, This Little Light of Mine. life and love and resistance, may we find within us and around us the resources, inspiration, and insistent invitation to be the ones we've been waiting for. May there be joy, may there be justice, may there be companionship. Peace, ashe, and may it be so.